That sounds like hyperbole, sounds a bit over the top, a bit blustery, until you read the actual bill and you realize, oh my stars, what country did this come out of? SB 1070 in Arizona makes it a crime to not be carrying papers that document your citizenship or immigration status. The bill directs police officers to arrest anyone on the, quote, reasonable suspicion that they are here in the U.S. illegally. Reasonable suspicion, meaning, you know, they look jet-lagged, or they're suspiciously familiar with the metric system, or maybe they prefer soccer to football. If you don't look like what an Arizona police officer considers American, that police officer can stop you on that suspicion alone and arrest you if your papers are not in order. Papers, please. The bill has all but been endorsed by Senator John McCain of Arizona.
There's a fear among some people, particularly the further away you get from the border, of the, quote, invasion that they are experiencing. I am convinced, and I believe with all my heart, we need a comprehensive approach to immigration reform. That means securing our borders, but it also means a temporary worker program that works.
I'm sorry. It's very embarrassing. We seem to have played the wrong tape. Yeah, mislabeled. I'm sorry. That was definitely presidential candidate John McCain. Here's the John McCain that's running for re-election now in Arizona. Totally different guy, it turns out.
The state of Arizona is acting and doing what they feel they need to do in light of the fact that the federal government is not fulfilling its fundamental responsibility to secure our borders. It's the people whose homes and property are being violated. It's the drive-by the drivers of cars with illegals in it that are intentionally causing accidents on the freeway.
You know that freeway? The Republican governor of Arizona, Jan Brewer, has 5 days to decide whether or not she's going to sign this remarkable bill. If she does, she will earn herself a place in the history of civil liberties in America. Her picture will be there under the phrase, "Papers, please." An update on the Icelandic volcano and its ash cloud that has crippled global air travel and has created some of the most beautifully stirring images of the year. First, the good news. British airports and airspace reopened today. The very first plane to land at Heathrow in almost a week was a British Airways flight from Vancouver. Throughout Europe, about half of today's scheduled departures will get off the ground. And as of this evening, in addition to Britain, at least some airports have opened in France, Italy, Ireland, Germany, Austria, the Czech Republic, Russia, and the Netherlands. Planes are able to fly now because the ash cloud is lower, allowing any high-altitude jet that can fly at least 20,000 feet to fly above it. So that's the good news. Now for the bad news. The airline industry estimates the volcano and its subsequent ash cloud of doom has cost more than $1 billion because of 95,000 canceled flights. Also, this volcano is not the only volcano in town. There is another much bigger volcano in Iceland that, if you go by the historical pattern, may very well erupt in the next 6 months. I know that's a weird thing to predict, and there's no guarantees here, but this other bigger volcano has done so every single time the smaller volcano erupted in the last 2,000 years. Little volcano first, that's the one that's already erupting now. Second volcano within 6 months. Every time for the last 2,000 years. Invest in trains now, and teleconferencing, and I hate Icelandic volcanoes t-shirts to be sold in airports. Georgia is on the cutting edge. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Georgia, at least their state legislature, is way ahead of the game. Georgia state legislature is so completely done with addressing problems that do exist, they have moved on to preemptively addressing problems that do not exist. Namely, the government implanting microchips into people against their will. Even though no one is actually being involuntarily implanted with microchips by the government, the Georgia state legislature is working proactively to make sure that anyone who wants to do such a thing will know it wouldn't be okay in Georgia. Georgia's Microchip Consent Act of 2010 is sponsored by 2 state senators who are both named Chip. No, I'm not kidding. Chip Pearson of Dawsonville and Chip Rogers of Woodstock, both Republicans. So the two Chips microchip bill makes the implantation of a microchip into a human being against his or her will a misdemeanor. The legislation has already passed the state Senate, and just a few days ago, it was brought before a key committee in the state House. And that is where lawmakers heard about 6 minutes of testimony from a woman who, in the words of Atlanta Journal-Constitution columnist Jim Galloway, quote, began to lead the assembled lawmakers down a path they didn't want to take. The woman told them, actually, you know what, we debated sort of all day about how to tell this story, and I have to tell you, there are details in this story that I am not capable of saying out loud, even when nobody's watching, because I get all blushy and... So there's, I think, only one good way to tell this story in its entirety, by acting it out, using people who look and sound nothing like the real ones in a setting totally different from the one where it happened. So here, with a cut-down version of arguably the most awesome 6 minutes of Georgia House Judiciary Committee history, are the Rachel Maddow Show players, with a new episode of the Rachel Maddow Show State Legislature transcript-based reenactment theater.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the committee on this?
I'm a resident of DeKalb County, and I'm also one of the people in Georgia who has a microchip. And I've been talking to the different legislators and trying to get help in trying to outlaw the implants. Microchips, they infringe on issues that are fundamental to our very existence. Our rights to privacy, our rights to body integrity, the right to say no to foreign objects being put in our bodies. Specifically, the right to refuse microchips being put into our body by the government. The right to work without being tortured by co-workers who are activating these microchips by using their cell phones and other electronic devices. Microchips are just like little beepers, if you will. Imagine having a beeper in your rectum or in your genital area, in the most sensitive area of your body. And your beeper number is displayed on billboards throughout the city.
Ma'am, did you say you have a microchip?
Yes, I do. This microchip was put in my vaginal rectum area.
And you're saying this was involuntary?
Involuntary, yes. I'm in a U.S. appeals court right now. This case has been going on for the last 8 years.
Who implanted this in you?
I feel like mine is...
You don't know who did it?
Yes. I'm one of the federal government research with this microchip.
And who in the federal government implanted it?
This is the Department of Defense, and this is the court case that is coming before the U.S. Appeal Court.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Rachel Maddow Show players. Okay, though, it's not over. Do you want to know what happened after that? The committee voted to approve the bill. Not kidding. They voted for the bill. Not kidding. And scene. Volcanoes, earthquakes, bizarre heat waves, windstorms, killer ash clouds. With the news of natural phenomena starting to read like the plot of a bad science fiction pestilence and plagues movie, we need to turn to our post-rational science correspondent for a little explanatory help. Hi, Kent Jones.
Hi, Rachel. There's been some astonishing scientific breakthroughs this week, thanks in part to noted geologist Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, no.
Yes, yes.
Scientists may think they know what caused the Icelandic volcano eruption, but clearly they're not familiar with the new Limbaugh theory.
A couple days after the health care bill had been signed into law, Obama ran around all over the country and said, hey, you know, I'm looking around, the earth hadn't opened up. No Armageddon out there, the birds are still chirping. I think the earth has opened up. God may have replied.
Health Reform Again, brought to you by Nancy Pelosi.
Earth has opened up. I don't know whether it's a rebirth or Armageddon.
Fascinating. When God wants to punish America for its socialist excesses, he unleashes hell in Iceland. Meanwhile, in Iran, a senior cleric has a bold new hypothesis about what causes earthquakes. Quote, many women who do not dress modestly lead young men astray and spread adultery in society, which increases earthquakes. And all this time, we've been chasing tectonic plates. Hemlines, people, not fault lines. And finally, using the same thought processes Rush Limbaugh and the cleric used to form their conclusions, scientists now believe that the gradual warming of the Earth and the flowering of dormant plants is not caused by a seasonal tilt of our planet toward the sun. The coming of spring is actually caused by Mitt Romney. Everything we know is wrong.
God might strike us down and make British people not able to fly anywhere, all for health reform.
Inconvenient.
Very focused.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Ken. Appreciate that.